Imagine earning an extra few $100s a month just by driving around your city on your own schedule. That's the enticing promise of DoorDash, a platform that's become a household name for food delivery. But what does that promise look like in reality, especially when you factor in all the hidden costs and unpredictable variables? Many drivers start with high hopes, seeing the advertised potential earnings, only to find their actual hourly rate is far less glamorous. Today, we're cutting through the marketing and the hype to give you the unvarnished truth about what DoorDash drivers really make per hour in the United States, including the critical elements that often get overlooked. Stick around, because the difference between a profitable shift and a wasted one often comes down to a few key strategies you might not even be considering. Let's start with the basics. DoorDash's base pay. This is the amount DoorDash guarantees for each delivery, before tips. It typically ranges from $2 to $10, and it's calculated based on factors like the estimated time, distance, and desirability of the order. A short, quick delivery might offer $2.50, while a longer trip to a less popular area could be $7 or $8. For example, a 5-mile delivery taking 20 minutes might pay $4 in base pay. This base pay is your absolute floor, but it's rarely enough to make a significant income on its own. The real money, as you'll soon see, comes from a combination of factors, and understanding how they interact is crucial for maximizing your earnings. We'll dive into how tips dramatically shift this equation next. Here's where a significant portion of a DoorDash driver's income comes from: customer tips. Unlike some other gig platforms, DoorDash allows customers to tip both before and after delivery, though pre-tipping is far more common. A good tip can easily double or even triple your earnings for a single delivery. For instance, that $4 base pay order could become $10 to $12 with a decent tip. The average tip can vary wildly, from $1 or $2 to $10 or even more on larger orders. This unpredictability means some hours will be far more lucrative than others. We'll explore how to strategize for better tips later. But first, let's look at the crucial factor that can make or break your hourly rate: your operating expenses. Many new drivers overlook the true cost of operating their vehicle, which significantly eats into their hourly earnings. It's not just about gas, although that's a big one. Consider oil changes every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, tire rotations, brake pad replacements, and the inevitable wear and tear on your engine and transmission. If you drive 20 hours a week for DoorDash, you might put an extra 500 to 700 miles on your car. Over a year, that's thousands of extra miles. The IRS estimates the standard mileage deduction at 67 cents per mile as of 2024, and it is subject to change annually, covering fuel, maintenance, and depreciation. This isn't money in your pocket, but it represents the real cost of doing business. Ignoring these costs leads to a false sense of how much you're actually making, a mistake that many drivers only realize much later. One common myth is that DoorDash drivers consistently make $25 to $30 an hour. While it's possible to hit those numbers during peak hours in high-demand areas, it's far from the average. This myth often comes from cherry-picking the best shifts or not factoring in downtime and expenses. A driver might claim they made $75 in 3 hours, but fail to mention the 30 minutes spent waiting for orders, the 10 miles driven between deliveries, and the gas consumed. The reality for most drivers, after accounting for all factors, is closer to $15 to $22 per active hour. We'll break down a realistic hourly average shortly, but first, let's talk about how timing your shifts can dramatically impact your actual income. When you dash makes a huge difference. Peak hours, typically lunch, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., and dinner, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., on weekdays, and all day on weekends, offer the highest demand and often activate DoorDash's peak pay. Peak pay is an extra bonus, usually $1 to $3 per order, added on top of base pay and tips during busy times. Delivering during these periods means more orders, less waiting, and potentially higher pay per delivery. If you try to dash during off-peak times like a Tuesday afternoon, you might sit for 30 minutes without an order, drastically reducing your effective hourly rate. For example, an hour during peak time might net you $25, while an off-peak hour might only bring in $10. Knowing when to log on is a critical strategy, but it's not the only one. How you accept orders also plays a huge role. Not every order is created equal, and smart drivers learn to be selective. Accepting every order that comes through might seem like a good way to maximize volume, but it can quickly lead to low hourly earnings. The key is to evaluate each offer. Look at the total payout versus the estimated distance and time. A general rule of thumb many experienced drivers use is to aim for at least $1.50 to $2 per mile. So, a $6 offer for 3 miles is probably worth it, but a $6 offer for 8 miles is likely not, as it will take too long and consume too much gas for the payout. Rejecting low-paying or high-mileage orders, while it might temporarily lower your acceptance rate, ultimately protects your hourly wage. But what happens if you just accept everything? Let me tell you a common mistake story. Here's what happens if you make the mistake of accepting every order. You become a busy fool. I once spoke with a new driver who proudly told me they accepted 100% of their orders. After 4 hours, they had made $45. Sounds okay, right? But they had driven over 70 miles, including a few long-distance, low-tip orders that took them far outside their preferred dashing zone. After deducting gas and factoring in wear and tear, their net hourly rate was closer to $6 to $8. They spent more time driving for unprofitable orders than earning money. This busy fool syndrome is a trap. It feels productive, but it's economically devastating. Learning to decline strategically is not just an option, it's a necessity for profitability. But even with the best strategy, how much can you realistically expect? So, what's a realistic hourly wage for a DoorDash driver in the US, after all factors? For a driver who is strategic, dashes during peak hours, and minimizes downtime, a net hourly income of $15 to $22 per active hour is a reasonable expectation. Let's break that down. If you take home $20 an hour for 15 active hours a week, that's $300 weekly, or around $1,200 a month. This is after accounting for gas and a conservative estimate for car wear and tear. It's not enough to replace a full-time income for most, but it's a substantial amount of extra income for many households. The range depends heavily on your market, the time of day, and your personal efficiency. But there's another crucial factor that often gets forgotten, and it can save you hundreds. As an independent contractor for DoorDash, you are responsible for your own taxes. This means setting aside a portion of your earnings for federal, state, and self-employment taxes. Many new drivers are shocked when tax season arrives and they owe a significant amount. A good rule of thumb is to set aside 25 to 35% of your gross earnings. However, the good news is you can deduct many of your expenses, significantly reducing your taxable income. Mileage is the biggest deduction. Keep meticulous records of all miles driven for DoorDash, not just during deliveries but also driving to your starting zone and between deliveries. This can save you hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Failing to track this is another common, costly mistake. But what else can you do to boost your income? To truly maximize your DoorDash income, you need to be proactive. First, track your mileage rigorously. Apps like Stride or Hurdler can automate this. Second, multi-app. Consider signing up for Uber Eats or Grubhub. If DoorDash is slow, you can switch to another platform. This drastically reduces downtime. Third, learn your market. Which restaurants are fast? Which areas tip better? Which roads are prone to traffic? This local knowledge is invaluable. Fourth, provide excellent customer service. Communicate delays, follow delivery instructions, and be polite. Happy customers are more likely to leave better tips. Finally, optimize your car. Ensure it's well-maintained to avoid costly breakdowns and maximize fuel efficiency. These small actions collectively add up to a significant increase in your bottom line. But what's the biggest takeaway from all of this? While DoorDash can be a valuable tool for earning extra income, remember it's just one piece of the puzzle. The true hourly earnings are not just what the app shows, but what you take home after all expenses and taxes. It requires strategy, discipline, and an understanding of the true costs of doing business. Think of yourself as a micro-business owner, not just a driver. Manage your time, manage your expenses, and manage your expectations. It's a side hustle that offers flexibility, but it demands smart decision-making to be genuinely profitable. The potential is there for many Americans to add a significant chunk to their monthly income, but only if they approach it with a realistic, business-minded perspective. So, what's the final word on DoorDash Pay? The honest truth is that DoorDash can be a solid side hustle, offering a realistic $15 to $22 per active hour after expenses for most strategic drivers. It provides unparalleled flexibility, allowing you to earn extra income on your own terms. However, success hinges on smart choices. Dashing during peak hours, being selective with orders, meticulously tracking expenses, and understanding your tax obligations. It's not passive income, but an active pursuit that rewards those who treat it like a mini business. If you found this breakdown valuable and want more realistic strategies for earning extra income, please consider subscribing to the channel for future insights.